Our good friends at Angel Studios. I love Angel Studios. Amazing new film this Holy Week. Phenomenal. In fact,
as I think about Charlie's life and how much of a support he was of Angel, it's hard not to feel so grateful for what he did. He supported us in our darkest days and in our brightest hours as a company. Man, are we grateful to have gotten to be a little connection in the multitude of connections that he made throughout his life, because it was so impactful to us. Thank you, Charlie. Love you. We miss you. We're going to continue to drive forward the good news.
You have been, I mean, I don't want to give some of these people too much time. It's not my job to do that. But you have been tremendous, I think, in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination and some of the conspiracy theories that have been spreading. You have been tremendous in just adding a voice of common sense, I would say, because you were an officer. Mm-hmm. You had investigated crime scenes. You've investigated murders. You've been the first guy on a scene that has to make sense of what's just happened. And I think you have brought so much, just I would say, common sense, but really just wisdom and kind of a calm, steady voice. And I think more people need to know about your videos. I think more people need to be watching you on YouTube, because it's weird when you're in this situation and you talk to people that actually know what they're talking about, or that were there, or that all of our friends were there. Yeah. But then so you have the firsthand accounts. Then you actually there's a legal team that's coordinating with the authorities, and you see it all, and then you see what people are saying online. You're like, well, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And, and then we're in a position where, it's an ongoing investigation. There's only so much we can say. There's, things that could be said and used against us in the court of law if we say certain things. But you've been tremendous, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. And, from that vantage point, tell us kind of what you're seeing. What are some of the common mistakes that people are making, and kind of as they're processing this? And I just want to say one last thing, and then I'm throwing it to you. I do have a lot of grace because a lot of people out there are not investigators. They don't have a law enforcement background, and they love Charlie, and they want to get truth. They want to get justice. So I do have a lot of grace. I understand why there's distrust, but please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. This stuff is very simple. All you have to do is have some type of experience like I do. I was trained on investigating. I investigated crimes myself. I testified in court. And you have that, plus you have wisdom, and you're reasonable, and you believe in God. So then you have godly wisdom in how you should articulate or put out information or disseminate information to the people that God is giving you that follows you. And like you said, Andrew, I understand that people are hurting and people are looking for answers and people don't know what they're talking about a lot of the times, and they're doing it in good faith, but they're just lost. It's like almost every police shooting that I cover. A lot of people don't understand use of force policy. They don't understand the law. They don't understand how the law is prosecuted. And so they are off on it, even though they have good intentions. Now, there's a difference between someone who's off on it in good faith with good intentions versus someone who know better and just out there spewing hatred and stupidity because they want to get clicks and subscribers and make money off of it. That is the difference. That is the difference between the anger point for me, is that if somebody just don't know, I get it. I mean, people don't understand investigations, but then people who should know better that's saying it is the ones that bother me the most. This stuff is very simple. You're like, if you really want to know what's going on in the case as a civilian person, right? We don't have access to records that they've submitted to court. We don't have text messages. We haven't. None of these people that are out here talking has interviewed anybody, witnesses, suspects, parents. They have no evidence. They didn't look at forensics, so they have no idea what they're talking about. However, if you, as a civilian person, if you want to know or get a synopsis of what could happen and what evidence they may have, read the affidavit. Read the probable cause statement that was submitted to court. When you write a probable cause statement as a law enforcement agency, you cannot lie or deceive or put information in that's not true. Because when you get to trial and they have the initial hearing, if you don't have evidence to what you've said, which you've sworn under penalty of perjury, that is true, your case is completely thrown out. And you cannot convince me somebody like Kesh Patel and those guys are willing to throw away their entire career and legacy to botch the most important case of our lifetime. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
Can I ask you?
Go ahead.
You know, in cases you've covered or worked on, worked on directly or covered. I know you mentioned police, and you have covered so many use of force cases, which is another example where misinformation comes up so many times and people believe they're choose your own narrative. It almost comes to. Have you ever seen a case where a father turned his own son into law enforcement like this? Because I've been scratching my brain, and that's really not something you see a lot.
Yeah, I've never. Now, it could be possible, depending on if the father was involved in something, all of that stuff. But in this case, that's not the case, right? This is not a lover's triangle or something weird situation where the dad is involved in the crime. This is a mom who identified. You got to think the FBI didn't catch him initially. They didn't know who he was.
Right, so for 33 hours, Tyler Robinson is on the loose.
He's on the loose.
And they have these images that come out.
Up. And they're getting tips online, too. People don't understand that. They got 10,000 tips or something like that, which they followed up on. But he's online. He's out there, and they haven't identified him yet. His mother identifies him. She confirms with his father that it's him. The father convinces him to turn himself in. They communicate with the deputy sheriff, a neighbor, who coordinated him to turn himself in without, obviously, the SWAT team coming to his house and doing a dynamic entry. So I find it to be unreasonable to believe that somehow his dad is want to get him the death penalty. For what reason? When you turn your son in knowing that he committed a crime such as this, which is an assassination, an intentional murder, he premeditated it, and he did it for political reasons. When you say, I'm going to turn my son into the authorities, you are turning him in knowing he can get the death penalty. Mm-hmm. No father would do that unless they are pretty confident that their son has done this. Now, according to the FBI, he actually confessed to his parents that he did it. Now, there's a difference between a confession and pleading not guilty in the court of law. A person can confess to their parents, but you can plead not guilty because you want to not end up getting a death penalty. So in my opinion, I think the fight is not whether he's guilty or not. The fight is to try to not allow him to get the death penalty, which is why they didn't want the cameras in the court, which is why they wanted to dress in plain clothes.
You're making way too much sense.
And by the way,
you're making way too much sense. Brandon Tatum, stop making so much sense.
It's in addition to that, we have that Discord chat that came out where he said, I don't have it in front of you, but it's something to the extent of, hey guys, I don't know if you saw the news, but it was me in Utah.
They had 20 people on that Discord chat, which the FBI is investigating all 20 of them. And the thing is, people don't understand. People don't understand forensics, right? There's a forensic extraction of all the content on Discord from his communication with that chat and every chat he's been on, and all 20 people in every chat that they've been on. Also, the electronic communication between him and his boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it's a boy, the transgender person. The communication that people don't have access to because they showed a synopsis, but they have extracted all the content from his phone and the other guy's phone in the relationship. And also, I know that so some people that have never investigated anything, and they say, well, it's kind of confusing the way he's communicating with the transgender person. But unless you have evidence of how he communicates in his other text communication, you cannot make a true judgment on whether or not it's suspicious, him using the word vehicle and different things of that nature.
Well, and not only that, but you're talking forensics, but that would also go. My experience is more OCONUS, right? Because as an intel officer, but it's a lot of the same metadata, the same electronic collection that we'd be using. So they could track his cell phone, and if he had gone to that, and there's this new witness that's come out that said they spotted someone on that roof. I think it was a week prior, and of course they're going to do with that cell phone, track the forensics. Okay, did he go a week prior? Was that him?
They made a statement in the affidavit that they submitted to the court that he did. They found on his phone searches and Google Maps searches of that university. Yep. And they can tell if he's searching that, it's how much time he spends on the site. And all of those things are part of the investigation. If people would just let them do their job. And if in the court of law with cross-examination, they're not doing their job properly, then let's go after, them and judge them on that.
All right, everybody. Brandon Tatum making way too much sense for the average person on the internet. But we say the truth anyways, fearlessly.